Hello and welcome to another episode of Laptop Retrospective. And today I have the ThinkPad R400. But can you tell which one is the R400 and which one is the T400? And I do this at the very beginning of the video, not to play a trick on you, but to illustrate a bit of a point that these two are very, very close, much closer than a lot of ThinkPad collectors and buyers would actually believe. And that's why I wanted to start with this as the beginning of the video before we talk to the techs and specs. So as you can see, both of these have a textured lid, so we can't use that to identify them. If we take a look at the ports on the front, we will note that this device over here seems to have the fewer ports because it's missing that FireWire, and the device over here actually does sport the FireWire. If we take a look at the sides of the machines, do we get any clues here? Well, no, actually we don't. There isn't any immediate telltale signs, maybe with the exception of the card slot configuration on these machines, which is which. Let's try the back, see if we have any better luck there. The backs are practically identical. There's a little bit of a difference in where the display cable is being fed, but that's about it. And then finally, if we take a look over here, well, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of difference either. In fact, both of them have ultra bays that eject the bay. So, all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, is that the R400, while it is cheaper, is not necessarily any feature less than the T400. So, let's talk about what the real difference is. And before I do that, I actually want to shout out to a viewer of the channel here, because the R400 was actually a donation. And that was donated by YT Guy 2010, and he has been a viewer of the channel for many, many years. And I gotta tell you, I have always appreciated his comments in the comment section. When I got something right and when I got something wrong, he was always there to make sure that the information was correct. And for that and for these donations, thank you. I just want to put that out there. So, let's talk some dirty little details about the R400. It was made in August of 2008 to August of 2010, and it was the last of the R series era. So after the R400, it was completely discontinued, and they moved on. They also had the R500, but that did not have a rubberized lid. So it would be replaced by the L series, and we'll be talking about those very soon in a future video. And it is also the only era of the R series with a widescreen display. All of the others would have been 4x3. Now, one of the chief differences between these two machines is actually their build, I don't even want to say quality, but their build construction. So as you can see, the T400 is ever so slightly thinner. It's a little bit easier to tell when it's open, and then the R400 is a little fatter. The R400 is a little lighter. The T400 is a little heavier. You've got a magnesium alloy roll cage chassis in this fellow, and the T400 is just ABS polymers and plastics. So where you have essentially metallic material composition on the T400, the R400 is more of a plastic masterclass. We're going to go ahead and put away the T400 for now because there are not as many things to talk about, and we've already mentioned quite a few of those things in this video up here, which I encourage you to watch. And let's take a little bit of time to talk about the R400. We'll come back to the T400 count. Now let's spend some time with the R400. So we are looking at a 14.1 display, and we are looking at either a 1080 by 800 or a 1680 by 1050 panel. And there are essentially two variants, a CCFL tube or an LED backlit display. And there are 19 different manufacturers of these displays. It's a real lottery on which one you're going to end up getting. CPUs essentially came in three flavors, Celeron, Celeron Duo, and Core 2 Duo, and I will put some of them up on the screen, but there are a lot of them. Too many for me to just talk about and list off here. It would be pretty boring. Your GPUs would be an Intel Graphics Media Accelerator 4500 Mobile HD, And there was also an ATI Radeon HD 3470, which was a 120 megabyte card that you could get for dedicated graphics. RAM was 8 gigabytes maximum, and there's a bit to know here. So it was 4 gig sticks, essentially, DDR3, 1066 megahertz, PC3, 8500. Or a 8 gigabyte stick will just not work. A few other things to note is that web cameras and fingerprint readers were optional on these, and you will see that it does not have a web camera up here at the top of the display, and it does not have a fingerprint reader. Both of those things, however, on my T400 example, are completely intact. We do have ourselves a ThinkLight though. That remained standard. In terms of battery options, there were quite a few. There was a 3-cell battery, which was about 21.6 watt hours, a 4-cell at 37, a 6-cell at 56.16, and a 9-cell, which I believe this is the one here, around at 84.24. It would also be compatible with the Ultra Bay battery, which was the ThinkPad battery of 42 origin. Those are some of the specifications and features that came with this laptop. So let's go ahead and disassemble it and do a bit of a deeper dive on the internals, and we can continue to highlight some of the key differences between this machine and the T400. I should mention that YT Guy 2010 did some modifications to this, primarily an 80 gigabyte SSD. CMOS battery is dead according to his notes, and then of course the BIOS was modified to accept a custom Wi-Fi card. So we can remove the battery easily enough, and the Ultra Bay module, no problem. Removal of this screw over here should gain us access to the SSD. Start putting out some pieces nicely here. And I suspect we're going to have to remove the keyboard and palm rest to get to the RAM. So let's start spinning out those screws. And these screws are nice, they're big, they're long, and I don't believe that they are captive, so they are going to fall right out. No problem there. And I'm just being careful to cover up the Windows key, because that is still useful. So we're going to shake out those 2 remaining screws for a total of 4 so far. And I can already feel some things wanting to let go on the inside. There we go. Screw number 5 was hanging on by a thread. Because screws have threads, right? All right, we can lean this forward. The palm rest there. Remove that. And there are our 2 RAM modules, and we've got a stick of 2 gigabytes there. And then a stick of 2 gigabytes there. We have our CMOS battery, which I know is dead. And then, of course, the keyboard is just a simple matter of lifting out. And the tab is a little hard to grab, so we're just going to reach in there and yank that out. Our keyboard is removed. We can see our Wi-Fi card, and there's a wireless N2200 hanging out in there. And the BIOS has been modified, so we can swap that out if we want. And we do have a socketed CPU hiding out under there. So even though it's a little bit more plastic than you would expect to see and a little bit thicker, there is absolutely nothing wrong with this bad boy. And if you're looking for an ultra cheap, very easy to modify computer, there is nothing wrong with this unit. And for those that are curious, this can actually hold 2 drives if you can get your hands on a ThinkMods adapter, because that will comfortably fit right in here. It's actually kind of nice because it has that eject, so it's not going to get stuck like it did in the T430. If you want to know more about this, make sure you're checking out the link right here. But with all that being said, let's go ahead and put this back together and celebrate by turning it on. Before we turn it on, we should probably quickly talk about the ports. On the front, we do have a headphone and microphone jack separate. We have the Wi-Fi switch. We do actually have a punch-out for FireWire. On the right-hand side, we have VGA, our 56K modem, Ethernet, 2 USB ports, a card slot with express card, and then card bus on the bottom. On the back, we have power plug and Kensington lock. And then on the right-hand side, we have another USB port, and then, of course, the Ultra Bay. I should also point out that we do have a docking port, so you are really not being hamstringed by... Yeah, and because the CMOS battery is dead, of course, it is going to complain about that. Can you tell it really doesn't like having a wrong date and time? So this is pretty cool to see. We're looking at a device that is exceptionally long in the tooth and still has a respectable boot time, still runs Windows 10. It's not going to be a heavyweighter, but it's still going to do a fair bit. And if you need more storage, we can always pursue some options, although putting this adapter in this computer kind of feels a bit silly just because of how much the adapter would probably cost you versus how much the computer would cost you. But as you can see, it's working like a top. We can see all the drives working as you would expect with all the files on them. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope that taking a look at this R400 has given you an appreciation for a couple of things. One, the R series in general and the L series that replaced it, but also the fact that you can still have an excellent computer with ThinkPad DNA and not have to completely break the bank. So hopefully you can understand that you're not going to necessarily break the bank having to purchase one of these, and it's still capable of doing productivity tasks, running YouTube, all the things that you would expect a laptop to be able to do. So I really hope that you enjoyed it. We're not quite done looking at the economic line thanks to YT Guy 2010 and some of his other donations, but this is absolutely fantastic. Once again, thanks to them for donating this machine, supporting the channel throughout the years. It means an awful lot. If you've enjoyed this sort of content and would love to see more, please consider doing the big four. Hit that like button, share this video, subscribe, and then obviously make sure that your notifications are set up so you don't miss a fantastic video like this that couldn't have been made possible literally without viewers like you. I'm starting to sound like PBS, but it is absolutely 100% true. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.